Good morning. Today I would like to talk to you about what I call taxation cannibalism, or tax cannibalism. That tipping point in any taxation regime where the productive side of the economy begins to be eaten away by the non-productive side of the economy. I think that the division of the world into workers and bosses is a false, entirely false dichotomy. There's a mutual dependence, as is revealed so frequently, between the prosperity of the bosses and the availability of jobs for the workers. So they're actually in the same business together, economically speaking. They are producing, they are producers, they are producing the things and the profits that are taxed, the incomes. This profit is just income, but it is taxed in any taxation economy, in any taxation set of protocols or a taxation regime. And what you have, in fact, is a division of the world into net tax takers and net tax makers. And of course the productive people are the tax makers, and it tends to be that the government side of expenditure is the tax takers. They take the taxes coercively, compulsorily, and with unanswerable authority from the productive side of the economy, and they give it freely, as if unearned, with no measurable sense at all, to the other side of the economy. Now, in colonial times, you can imagine across the board tax rates on customs and excise duties and so on falling upon the rich and being about the level of, say, 10%. So you have approximately 10% of the people, working under the 10% gathered. And then when the real tax rate, we're not talking ever here about income tax alone. It's duties and fees and charges, property taxes, sales taxes, payroll taxes, liquor taxes, cigarette taxes, parking fines, rubbish fees, all the fees and charges that go to central or local or regional government. Because the character of these bodies is that you have one vote every 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, depending on your country, and you have, 10,000 decisions made on that one vote. And for most of them, with your one vote, many of those decisions you simply don't agree with, but they'll swamp you and only offer you one vote. Whereas in the productive side of the economy, you vote with every dollar you have, say $10,000, and you make 10,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 votes or price purchase decisions with your money. So the things you're voting for with your money, with your purchases, are exactly matched by the dollars you have. So there's an incentive to earn those dollars to gain more voting power through your purchases for items you approve of, don't approve of. So there's one side of the economy that's incredibly dynamically answerable and extremely democratic in that with your dollar purchase, say, or $10 purchase or $100 purchase, you have a range of choices as to exactly where, when, how, and what manner of payment you make even. Credit card, time payment, cash, cheque, through your bank account, later, right now, ahead of time, build up an account, all kinds, lay by, all kinds of things. All manners in which you can articulate your vote price purchase and make a choice of your items. So you have 10,000 items that then belong to you, entirely come under your sovereignty, under your control. Now this is an unusual result and an unusual way of putting things, but I think you can see how true it is. And the other side is tyrannical, basically, in that your one vote gives someone else, a whole set of people, a license to make 10, 20, 30,000 decisions of their choosing. And they more or less put you aside because their vote power, their people power, the 70,000 people voted for them, and they just say, oh, you're just one person over against their 70,000. So the power differential between yourself and your elected person, I mean, most of them are only worth $1, and I would want them to basically, disappear off the scene. Here, take this, compound it with another couple of $100 from other voters, and disappear. Just leave the country, please. Most of us would think that would be an appropriate fate for a politician. The whole thing is rotten to the core from this point of view. From the power vote differential point of view, the ratio between the one voter and 100,000 or so decisions made from that one vote, most of which you have no power over at all. Now, so when the government has a real tax rate of 20%, yes, it's offering freebies and free things for the people, and thus fulfilling de Tocqueville's objection that you're giving people what they want, not what they need, what is good and wise and sensible for them. And government now is not governing, but taking part. It's not making the rules, but making the rules judge, jury and executioner. Making the rules and performing the task and competing with the very person, say, in the housing industry. So you take money off, say, somebody who owns a house, and then you build another house alongside it, competing with that house. It's better appointed than the taxpayer's house. And so a poor person has the illusion of doing well. One is encouraging poverty in such a society. And I think that's a tipping point all of its own. Prior to 1987, the news came through that government managers were receiving more pay than managers in the private sector. But who was paying ultimately? The managers in the public sector, the managers in the private sector. They were not only carrying the can for themselves and their business, but they were also carrying the can for these parasitic managers in the public sector. And they were earning more money. This is just an incredible result. And of course, that was a signal for prior to the collapse in this country, which was quite severe in 1987. Are we coming to that now in the housing realm? Recently, the Wellington City Council in Regent Park Flats produced some townhouses for supposedly poor people that is way better appointed than my current house here. This is this is incredible. I'm paying for them, they don't pay for me, and they're living in a better house. How does that happen? How come that happens? This must be the signal for a tipping point, because as the taxes go up to 20%, you have control and management. The government takes more part in the economy. And then at 30%, you have rather excessive control and management. This is where your control freaks begin to take part. And then with property taxes and sales taxes and all kinds of added extra taxes, fees and charges, and the people are crying out revenue gathering left, right and centre. Almost everything now has become revenue gathering, extra fees, extra charges, and very heavy charges as well. Not just penalty charges, but punitively. They're trying to punish the normal citizen so as to give a nice lifestyle in prison for a criminal. This is turning values around. You know, we don't punish the criminals anymore, but we punish the citizen who has to pay for the criminal. We do not, punish the criminal. We give them well-appointed, and new opportunities to train and earn an income and so on. But we have fewer opportunities to train and earn an income. This has got to stop, and I think it's reached that point where it will. Now, it just so happens that the New Zealand economy has got to the stage where the intervention of government, the non-productive side of society, is taxing the productive side at 45, 47%, even up to 50, 55%. And this is for average income people and below average income people. So a labouring man on, say, $30,000 a year could very well be paying $15,000 in various forms of taxes, fees and charges. So what's he really earning? Only $15,000 a year. He's not doing too much better than an unemployed person. And if he were an unemployed person, he would have access to this free, cheap housing. So we're all caught in a terrible, terrible, throttling, stifling, stultifying bind, which again cannot last, doesn't function, and is slowly bringing the culture to a halt. Now, at the 45 to 50% tipping point tax rates, which we've now entered into, we've recently had a GST increase of 3% sometime last spring or last summer or last winter. Now in this winter I notice exactly that. 3% of the local shops have closed. They've gone out of business. 3%. And another accountant firm through a shop owner I know, he has on his books 160 clients, and just the other weekend 4 of his clients finally closed their account with him. They've gone out of business. Now that represents almost 2 or 3% of that accountant's business alone. So there's a confirming feature. So the GST, the total tax rate, because the GST applies as a sales tax, it applies across the board to every purchase an average income or below average income person would make in this country, and also many purchases that a rich person would make. And thus it's taking the money out of the local economy, and the government will spend this on overseas loans and other things, paying off debt and whatnot. So that the two things match up. Now often the story is told that the government intervention in the economy is only 30 or 35% when somebody mentions the real tax rate. And this is the standard media device. They're telling a truth, and it appears to answer one to the other, but it's a different kind of truth. The taxes are an income for a government. You have to look not at their degree of intervention in the economy. They do have trading departments, some of whom do not pay taxes, and others require a subsidy from taxes to keep going. So it still remains overall a non-productive sector, and it's half the economy pretty well. And it's at that point that one half of the economy eats alive the other half. You know, it's like you're shooting your own arm. or you're eating your own arm and you're about to bite your whole body off. This cannot work. And indeed, the tax receipts are down. So the percentage of tax increase is up, but the tax receipts absolutely, not just percentage-wise, are down. Which is exactly a signal of what I'm saying here, that we've reached this tipping point where you obviously cannot have we have 50% of people scurrying up under that side of the economy, and the other 50% of the people keeping themselves alive plus paying for these ones. How can that be done? It's 1-to-1 pretty well. And the proper measure is government income and government expenditure. And government expenditure indeed is approximately 50% of the economy, counting pensions, beneficiaries, unemployed, various schemes and so on and so forth, hospitals, education and whatnot. All good things. No argument with that. But is it sustainable? The ecology of the economy, is it sustainable? The ecology, the environment of the economy is numbers, is maths, is proportions, is taxes, is accountancy, is economics, it's figures. They're the only thing that counts, that count. You must just keep emotion out of it. And when you do the books, it's not working at this point. And some people at this point cry out, "Oh, what about such and such and so and so?" Some usually unnamed Scandinavian country with a real tax rate of 67%. But it's relying on that country's past reputation or vast resources in iron or uranium or something like that they have, and its past reputation for hard work to create, say, the Volvo motor car or aeroplanes or so on and so forth. And these may by now be almost semi or government businesses. However, the fact is, if you look at the country today, it looks very like the Soviet Union prior to its collapse. Highly